Good afternoon, all the respected members. Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, sir.
Welcome, everyone. Yet another session of the in-house training. Today, we are discussing the topic of embracing multilingualism in classrooms. So,
RAVI PANDEY.
so for that, we need to understand first what is multilingualism and how it can be helpful for us in the course of education in the classroom. I would request
ब्लूटूथ में लगा
I would request all the honorable members to keep their mics on mute. Thank you. So I'll start it again. So today we are going to discuss the topic of embracing multilingualism in the classrooms and how it is going to helpful. It is going to be helpful for us. So straight away, let us go to the first slide, and I'm going to share you the first slide. And I would like to know your perspective on this particular slide. So I would like to, I would like all the members to go through the slide and tell me what do they observe. So let me share the next slide with you. Okay, so yes. So now we are going to discuss first what is language. What do we understand by language? Because in broader terms, language is a very broad term, but we have tried to summarize it in a very short form. So language is nothing else, but it is a system of conventional, spoken, manual, or written symbols by the means of which human beings as members of a social group and the participants in its culture expresses themselves. So it is simply that anything which is used for communication in the written form or in the spoken form, which enhances the interaction between human beings is called as a language. And language, as we also know that it is the foundation of every culture. If there is no language, then there would be no communication. If there would be no communication, then there would be no exchange of ideas, and the entire civilization or the culture will fail. It is an abstract system of word meanings and symbols for all aspects of culture. So if we do not have the words, if we could not understand the meaning of the words, it is not going to help us. It is not going to nourish any culture. It is not going to give us any civilization. And there are some important ingredients of the language as well. So like if we know about the language, we have to communicate the language, we have speech, we have symbols, we have written characters, then we use our hand gestures, movements to communicate that particular language. Then we have numbers, expressions of non-verbal communication. We will discuss this non-verbal communication in our next training session, which is about effective communication skills. So this is what we understand what the language is. It is a system where we exchange our ideas using our speaking skills, using our using our written skills by writing the symbols. Now let us go to the next part. There are multiple introductions of languages. We can introduce language in different perspectives in different forms, but we have just understood what language is. Now let us understand what multilingualism is. Multi means many, language means language. So if we know a lot of languages, if we know different type of languages, it is called as multilingualism. So what exactly it is? Multilingualism is a common and increasing phenomena in present day society, which can be studied from different perspectives. Now let us try to understand this. We are living in a society where we tend to speak a number of languages, like we speak our native language. In school we speak English, when we meet our friends we speak in Hindi. So all these languages together make a concept of multilingualism, like we are using multiple languages at the same time, and based on the ideology and tradition, a race is there, and race has a culture, and race has a language. So without language there is no culture, and without culture there is no race. So into the extended features are different varieties of multilingualism on topics such as bilingualism and trilingualism. So if we divide multilingualism in different forms, it can be Bilingualism means we know two languages. Trilingualism, we know three languages, and so on. We know more than three languages as well. Here is another concept of multilingualism, which says it is a powerful linguistic. Whenever there is a word linguistic, as you are all aware of, it is related to language. So multilingualism is a powerful linguistic phenomena. It's a process which evolves from the need to communicate across speech communities. It means that people tend to learn multilingualism only when it becomes necessary for them. Like let us suppose that somebody who is living in, let us suppose somebody who is living in Denmark and he is from India. So to live in Denmark, he must have at least working knowledge of Danish language, because if he will not understand the Danish language, if he could not write, he will not be able to communicate with the people of Denmark. Multilingualism is also the ability to speak in more than one language, either by an individual or by a group of speakers. या तो आप अकेले भी बोल सकते हैं या फिर आप एक से ज्यादा व्यक्ति उसको बोलते हैं, तो that is called as multilingualism. Now, what is a multilingual person called? If a person knows more than one language, what he needs to be called? A multilingual person is one who can communicate in more than one language, be it actively. So multilingualism does not only means that the person can only speak or he can only write, but he must have all the three skills of speaking, writing, as well as understanding the language. However, it can be in two forms. It can be in active form, like if we have all the three skills of listening, speaking, and writing, then it is called as an active skills. And if we can only listen to it or read it, or we just have two sets of the skills, then it is called as a passive multilingual person. And in other terms, a person who can speak more than one language is called as multilingual person, or polyglot is the term which is technically used for a multilingual person. So I presume most of us belong to a community where we speak our native language, we speak Hindi also, we speak English also. So we are already polyglots, we are already have that skill of multilingual person. Here is another concept. So it is the same concept. The concept is same. Person who speaks the multiple languages is called as a polyglot or multilingual person, and it is shown by either one person or more than one person. Now, let us try to understand why there is a need of multilingualism in the educational curriculum, or why we need to put it together in our educational curriculum or in our languages. We know that India is a vast country, and if we officially go through it, there are 22 official languages which has been recognized by Indian Constitution, namely Bengali, Hindi, Mathili, Nepalese, Sanskrit, Tamil, Urdu, Assamese, Dogri, and so on, a number of languages. And we are still people are still trying to include Bhojpuri into that particular language. It is missing due to some reasons, because it does not have a particular dialect in which we can write the speech. So multilingualism is natively the identity of India. Like in each corner, we have a different language. In each corner of the country, we have an entirely different language. It can be a little bit similar to each other, like Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Malayalam. These are some of the southern languages, South Indian languages, which are quite close, but there is a difference between these languages. Now, if we will move towards north, Dogri and Punjabi has a little bit of similarity into it. Then we move towards the Awadh region, towards the Bihar, Jharkhand, Madhya Pradesh. Then we normally follow Hindi and the other languages related to Hindi. So overall, if we talk about it, India is a country of multilingualism, and which is also the identity of us, the Indians. And a further 780 languages estimated to be in everyday use. So apart from 22 official languages, and this is a very surprising factor for each one of us, because we only know that there are almost 30 languages, out of which 22 are officially recognized, and rest of them are not officially recognized. But if we will closely take a look at it, there are 780 other languages which are being spoken in India on the different parts of the parts of India, on the grassroots level, on the local level. Like if you will go from here to Varanasi, the dialect would be completely different. So here are some statistics to show all of us that why multilingualism has become very, very important to be included in the educational system. The release of linguistic data from 2011 census shows us and allow us to objectively conclude that Nagaland is the most linguistically diverse state in India. So here are some of the astonishing factors, surprising factors are coming in. Nagaland is the state of India where a number of languages are spoken by the people of Nagaland. They have different 10, 12 languages spoken. Then we have Kerala. It's the being least diverse state of India. It means only one or two languages which are used in Kerala. Bengali has been voted the sweetest language in the world. So we should be proud of it that the language which is spoken, which is from the land of Rabindranath Tagore and Subhash Chandra Bose, is among the sweetest language. Not only among the, but it is the sweetest language in the world, positioning Spanish and Dutch as the second and third sweetest tongues. So after that, Spanish language is there, then Dutch language is there. So we were talking about the Dutch language. Dutch is from Holland, and Spanish is from Spain. Kannada is the language that is regarded as the queen of all languages in the world. So this is one more interesting fact coming into. English is the most spoken language in the world, 2021. So if we calculate the population of the people who speak English, these people, English speaking people are maximum in the world. Mandarin, which is the refined form or the basic form of Chinese language, which we normally know as Chinese language. Mandarin is unanimously considered the toughest language to master in the world. So it is the most difficult language. Can any one of you tell me why do we consider Mandarin is one of the most difficult languages to master in the world? Any teacher? Any respected member? Yes. Okay. So I will disclose why. See, in Mandarin, not only Mandarin, but in Japanese language also, it is also the most difficult language to acquire because it has around 60,000 calligraphic characters. Like here in our Hindi or English language, we use alphabets to form a word. But then in Mandarin or in Japanese, they do not have the alphabets, but directly word written in their calligraphy, and those words are directly used by the people. So it becomes very, very difficult to learn all those 30,000, 40,000, 60,000 characters. Tamil language is recognized as the oldest language in the world, and my dear friends, please mind it, it is the closest language to Devanagari script, that is Sanskrit. So Tamil is considered to be the oldest language. It is the crude form of, it is considered that Sanskrit is also derived from Tamilian language. It came from Tamil. So these are some of the interesting facts about the languages. And I presume that this could be a very surprising factor. This could be a very surprising thing for all of us to know all these relevant language information. Now let us move to the next slide. Now, UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Social and Cultural Organization, which is a part of United Nations, has three guiding principles about education and how multilingual world should be created. And what are these three principles? Principle number one, UNESCO supports that mother tongue instruction as a means of improving educational quality by building upon the knowledge and experience of the learners and teachers. So I will come to the National Education Policy 2020, where we have been given the directives, we have been guidelined by the educational authorities that in the coming NEP, National Education Policy, mother tongue would be used for a definite set of the classes of till class 5th till class 8. We will discuss it in the later phase. But UNESCO also says that mother tongue instructions are most important and it helps in improving the quality education for each one of us. Second principle says that bilingual and or multilingual education at all levels of education as a means of promoting both social and gender equality and as a key element on linguistically diverse societies. So this means that in normal days also in the educational curriculum also we must be using at least two languages. Like we generally use English in our school, but sometimes when it becomes a student to understand, we also explain some of the ideas in Hindi also. And now coming in on to UNESCO also supports that there should be essential language is an essential component of intercultural education. So if we need to educate people about the culture of India, the cultural heritage of India, the people should be aware, the people must know their mother tongue as well as apart from that, they also know an international language. So if we go to the British rule, the colonial India, there was a reform which was brought in and passed in Indian councils as an Indian Councils Act, in which it was said that if we can keep the Indians away from their language, we can go ahead and easily handle Indians. This was said by one of the viceroys of India. So it becomes multilingualism becomes an essential part of the education system, and not only the education system. If we have to nurture the cultural aspects of a country, multilingual youth should be the base of it. They must be included. They must be imparted the education about the native language as well as more than one language. Okay. So here comes, I was discussing about the NEP part, that what NEP says about the multilingualism. So the NEP 2020 has reconfigured the curriculum and pedagogy of school education, and it says clearly that wherever possible, the medium of instruction until at least grade 5, but preferably till grade 8 and beyond will be the mother home language, mother tongue language. So it says that at least till class 5th, we need to have the mother tongue as a medium of education. And most probably, if that is possible, we can go ahead till class 8 and include Hindi and English both in our curriculum to make the students understand the broader perspectives of all the educational system. Thereafter, the home or local language shall continue to be taught as a language wherever possible by both public and private schools. So it says that home language must be included in the curriculum and it should be the past. So we already have Hindi as a subject over here, and we also have English. So we can understand that the students of our school, they are already multilingual in that perspective. They have a very sound knowledge of Hindi, which is the native language, which is the mother tongue. They have a very sound knowledge of English. And apart from that, they have a very good knowledge of speaking Bhojpuri. So they are already multilinguistic. They are already polyglot. So they have a knowledge of three languages. And this NEP also says that by the end of grade 9, they can speak about science and other subjects both in their home language as well as in English. So they must have knowledge of English as well as their mother tongue Hindi, and they should be able to explain the ideas of science and mathematics and relative subjects in both the languages Hindi as well as English. So here is where multilingualism becomes very, very important, and this is the reason we are conducting this in-house training session to understand the perspectives of multilingualism. Now, what further it means for the educators or schools, what it means for parents, and what it means for the students. We need to understand this. For educators, teach languages in an enjoyable and interactive style. So we must impart the education of multiple languages in a very different mode, like it should be interactive, it should be enjoyed by the students. There should be a plenty of interactive conversation should go on. And apart from that, subsequently writing exercises could be given, reading exercise. And as we are aware that we have already been doing this in our different classes in our senior section also, in our secondary section also, the language learning should be experimental. So we need to do we need to put in innovative ideas, like we can ask the student to write poems in their own language. We can ask them to write a speech. We can ask them to go ahead and represent a drama, and we can also go ahead and train them regarding the expression in native language or mother tongue, or the same drama could be translated into English, and that can be used and that can be staged. For parents, it will be an icebreaker for children when they meet people from other parts of India. So, if we have a cross-cultural interaction with the students of different states in India, they will learn what yes is called in other languages, what good is called in other languages. So, they will have a very sound knowledge of other words.
एकदम पागल कदी माई एकदम काका संत्या तू पगला दे
So sorry for interruption. That might be some disturbance. So now the students will meet different cultural counterparts of students of different states. And now the technology has made it more easier. We can have the Zoom session with the students of other schools in different parts of India, and the students can go ahead and interact with them, learn with them. And for students, they learn more languages of India, and they learn more about the rich cultural heritage of India. So here, multilingualism becomes very, very important, extremely important for us to be a part of the curriculum. And we need to be very responsive towards it. We need to inculcate this in our sessions. Now, here comes the most important question. Why multilingualism? Why it should be there? Why it should be there in our education system? So there are three essential roles of monolingual educators, multilingual educators, pardon. Advocating for multilingualism encourages the student to use their home language in school to process content and collaborate with others. So it will be very, very easy for the students to understand the concept in their own mother tongue, in their own language. Foster being multi-literate, have students read and write in their home language to learn content and to communicate ideas. So they can not only learn their home language, they can not only learn Hindi, but they can also go ahead and be expressive. And we all are aware that whenever we express the inner feelings of ourselves, it tends to come out in our native language, or it tends to come out in our mother tongue. So whenever we get very happy, or whenever we get very angry or very sad, we start speaking in Hindi, because we are connected to that particular language since our birth, and we can express us more viably in that particular form. So here is the second part: celebrate multi-naturalism. So if students, multiculturalism, sorry. So if students are imparted the multilingualistic languages, imparted multi languages, then they will not only understand their own language from the region which they belong to, but in the different section they can learn the culture of the different parts of India, and they can understand what is going on. So here also multilingualism becomes very, very important. Now let us go ahead and see how we can use this multilingual approach from theory. Till now we have been studying that what is multilingualism, what are the aspects, how we can go ahead and introduce it, what we can do in these scenarios. But here we are going to bring it into practice, how we can go ahead and bring it into our own practice. So this reflects the growing body of research evidence showing that preventing learners from using their home language in the English language classrooms not only impedes learning and denies their linguistic human rights, but also loses valuable opportunities for teachers to draw on their students' knowledge and experience as resources for teaching. Now, let us understand this concept. I am an English teacher, and I go to the class and ask a student to tell me something about how you spend your holidays. And I insist to the student that please go ahead and speak in English. And let us take a scenario that the student is not very well versed in English. His approach towards English is not very viable, not very feasible. So what will he do? Even the student who wants to speak, who wants to express himself, he will not express. So if we will remove the barrier of language, then he will go ahead and express himself in Hindi or any other local language or native language. Now, here comes the part of multilingualism in play. So, if we already teach that student good Hindi or good English, then what will happen? The student would be very much expressive in both the languages. So, here to get the student to be expressive, the idea oriented, the reflection should be taken. So the student must have a multilingual ability. He must be a polyglot. So here multilingual practice comes from theory to the practice. We can say that in our framework, from framework it comes to the activation. Now, multilingual education program have different sets. So the stage one is learning takes place entirely in child's home language. So the first thing a child learns is his own home language, the language which is used at home, the language in which parents speak. Second stage, building fluency in the mother tongue, introduction of oral fluency in the second language. Now, if a person is very good in his or her mother tongue, if the child is very good in his or her mother tongue, slowly and gradually he would be easily able to correlate to the second language which is being imparted in the educational system. Now, the third stage comes in building oral fluency in the second language. Now the child is able to understand the ideas in mother tongue. Now he is able to understand the ideas in the second language also. Now the child can go ahead and correlate both the ideas together and express it. Now, fourth part, which is the fourth part, using both first and second language for lifelong learning. Now the child is able to understand both the languages. He is able to speak in both the languages. He is able to write in both the languages. So through his entire lifetime, he would be able to express himself. He would be able to communicate his ideas in both the languages, the mother tongue as well as the second language, which is English in our case. Multilingualism to be seen as a resource for learning. It should not be seen as a skill. It should be seen as a resource for learning. Now, why there is a hype of learning English in India? Because we are treating English as a skill rather than treating it as a learning resource. So whenever possible, medium of instruction until grade 5th, preferably at till grade 8, should be the regional language of the local language. The local language shall continue to be taught as a language wherever possible, wherever we get the scope, we should have different activities in the local language. High quality textbooks, including science, to be made available. This is a very challenging part for the entire education industry, entire educational system. I must not use the word industry. That sounds not does not sound good. So, in the entire educational system, the challenge is to build that infrastructure of providing the knowledge to the student till class 10th, till in class 12th for in the local language. That becomes a very challenging part. The three languages learned by a child uh, or children to be the choice of states, region, and the students of which at least two of them should be native to India. So out of three languages, two should be the part of that particular area. Like if a child is living in Bengal, he must be aware of Bengali language. If he chooses, he can learn Hindi as well as English. So these are the three languages he can go ahead and learn. Pardon. What are the benefits if a child becomes polyglot or multilingual? What are the benefits that he will observe, he will get? Multilingual classrooms foster essential 21st century skills. So if a child goes to United States or if a child goes to some European country to learn something about science or something about arts, if he goes to Paris to learn the professional art, and the people in France would be either speaking French or they would be speaking English. So how would that child communicate? So that multilingualistic approach will help him to go ahead and attain that knowledge. Multilingual children are more empathetic. They can understand more languages, so they can be more empathetic towards the different set of people. Speaking more than one language is better for your brain. So we can go ahead and switch our languages so it keeps our brain very, very active. Multilingualism connect communities, obviously. So if even if let us suppose that I know how to speak Punjabi, or let us suppose that how I know how to speak Bengali, so I can go ahead to Bengal and very easily go ahead and get a very good connect with the Bengali people, with the Bengali counterparts. I can get a very good response from the people who speak Punjabi in Punjab. Being multilingual gives children better job perspectives. Yes, that is a very, very important part from the child's uh, career point of view. If a person knows how to go ahead and speak French language, if a child knows how to go ahead and speak any other different third language, fourth language, so he have more job perspectives. Like here also, you can find out that local languages are very much in demand. If a person knows Tamil well, he can go ahead and recruit it in Tamil region. If a person knows Punjabi well, and the basic reason behind this that the person can go ahead and connect with the masses, connect with the people, right? So here also these are some of the benefits of multilingualism. Now, here is the example which I was quoting. A student belongs to a Bengali family but living in Delhi. So obviously the mother tongue is Bengali. He lives in Delhi, so he will learn Hindi, and in English he is taught. English he is taught at school. So in family he talks in Bengali. Here, the student is dealing with three languages at the same time: Hindi, Bengali. He is dealing with Hindi, he is dealing with Bengali, and he is also dealing with English. So, this child becomes a multilingual child. This child becomes a polyglot. What is the scope? If we know, if we have better multilingualistic approach, we are multilinguals. What would be the benefit? So the benefit would be multilingualism is not just limited to a specific field. It touches every aspect of human life. Each and every person is touched. It its scope is very large, which can be studied as follows. The scope is very, very large. Let us see some of the points. Education is imparted through multilingualism because of multilingual society. So society have various languages. So education is also imparted in a multilingual approach. Children tend to learn a number of languages. Personally, we are multilingual. We just saw the example of the Bengali boy who lives in Delhi and studies in English medium school. So we have knowledge of all the three languages. Our constitution provides us more than two languages to use for administration. Even our constitution says that we can go ahead and use more than two languages in our offices. We can use Hindi, English, we can use Bengali, Hindi, we can use Hindi, Bengali. So there are a lot of perspectives attached to it. Now here comes the most important part. Please give me a moment. So how we can go ahead? Now let us first, before that, we will go ahead and understand the term translanguaging. We just went through the concept of multilingualism. We understand what is bilingualism, what is monolingualism, what is trilingualism. Now here comes the concept of translanguaging in the classroom. So it trans generally means it is switching between the languages. So we know Hindi also, we know English also. So as the educators, we go ahead and express the same ideas in more than two languages. So translanguaging is a relatively new term for an old practice. So till now, in English medium school, the entire medium for education was English. In Hindi medium school, the entire medium of education was Hindi. But now this new concept of translanguaging has come into place. What we do is that switching between the languages one knows in order to maximize the communicative potential. Let us understand this word communicative potential. Potential means ability, and communicative means related to communication, expression of ideas. So, if we can switch between two or more than two languages, we can enhance, we can capitulate on maximizing our communicating potential. We can communicate to different sets of people in different languages, and this not only makes us educated, this also gives us a flexibility. Flexibility means if we can very easily switch from one language to another language, what will happen? This will make us flexible in multilingualism. We can all of a sudden we can go ahead and switch to Punjabi. All of a sudden we can make the student or the learner to understand the things in Hindi or English or the local language. So translanguaging makes us flexible. Sorry for interruption. So please bear with me. It will take a little bit of time. We just got disconnected. Okay, thank you for bearing with me. Let me go to that particular slide where we were discussing the idea of translingualism. Okay, so this was the slide that we were discussing. Okay, so it makes us more flexible. We can move from one language to another language, and we can use the same thing in our classroom. We can ask the student to use both the languages and express their ideas. Uh, trans Translating between the languages becomes very easy for the students who are multilingual linguists. Mixing words and expression from different languages in the same spoken or written utterance. So we can mix the expressions, we can also mix the words from one language to another language, and we can use both. So now there is a concept of English that we are using, Hindi and English. We tend to use the English words in Hindi, Hindi words in English to make it more easier for the learners to understand. So using the home language is one part of the activity and school language is another part. So there are two parts. Home language is one part of the activity and using the English medium is the other part of the communicating languages. So Here, from multilingualism, we are moving to translingualism, which becomes a very essential part of our classroom education. Now, using multilingualism as a resource, let us understand this. So, according to National Curriculum Framework (NCF) 2005, the multilingual characteristics of Indian society should be seen as a resource to promote multilingual proficiency in every child, which includes proficiency in English, reading and writing, listening and speech, contribute to the child's progress in all the curricular areas, and must be the basis for curricular planning. Let us understand this. So, multilingualism should be the part of the teaching language. It should not be the center of learning process, but it should be a part of the learning process where student can go ahead and communicate in his or her own native language. Apart from that, he can improvise, enhance his skills in the second language, that is English, which is being imparted in the schools. Different language of different students will be use uh, to create an innovation or creativity in the classroom. Let us try to understand. Let us have 5 students from our classroom. One is a Bengali, one is a Punjabi, one is a Hindi speaking person, and one is an English speaking person. So we give the same sentence to one particular child and ask the rest of them to go ahead and express their views or ideas of the same sentence in their language. So it not only becomes a fun activity, but also it gives education to the rest of the students who are trying to understand the different languages. So the person who understands Punjabi can also go ahead and understand Bengali. The person who understands Bengali can go ahead and also learn the rest of the 2 languages. Students will learn about rules of different languages that will help to sharpen their skills of observing, deducing, and reasoning, and also enhancing their linguistic and cognitive faculty. So now these students, the 4 students we talk about, they have slowly and gradually learned 4 skills, 4 different languages. So now they can go ahead and express themselves in those 4 languages. They can go ahead and write the ideas in those 4 languages. Multilingual environment itself will act as a motivation to learn English. So, if we see a child speaking in Hindi and he is also well versed in English and he is speaking English very fluently, so it becomes motivation for the rest of the children to go ahead and learn English also. I find it day to day. A lot of student comes to me and they tell me that, okay, sir, we need to improve our English speaking skills. What are the ideas? How we can go ahead? So I ask them to go ahead and watch a little bit of English movies so they can understand the dialect, they can understand the pronunciation, and more they will understand the pronunciation, they will understand the expression, and they will, if they will in long term, they will hold on to it, they will be very easily and completely able to understand the second language, that is English. The English as second language teacher may use first language of the pupil. So first language becomes the most important part, and which can be which can be taken as the basis, and it is translated into English, and the education would be imparted in English as well. So on all the perspective, if we see, we can go ahead and use multilingualism as a resource in our classroom teaching, and students and go ahead and learn different skills, different languages. Now let us come, why multilingualistic person is considered to be an asset, why multilingualism becomes a very, very important part, why we are going ahead and learning it today. It gives, first thing, it gives us skill development. Multilingual speakers routinely strengthen complementary workplace skills while using their language talents on the job, such as expanding vocabularies, better problem solving skills, listening skills, and interpersonal skills. So if you will go to an office, if you will go to a place where you are speaking in Bengali, but if you will not find a person in who can understand Bengali, what would be the benefit? that would be out of use. But let us take the opportunity to have a framework or a scenario where you go to an office and the person can speak Bengali, he understands Bengali, he also understands English, he also understands Hindi. So wherever you are multilingual, the job perspectives are better for you. He can understand the perspectives of rest of the people. He can go ahead and he has a very good problem solving approach as well. Then it develops the personality. If a person is polyglot, he can go ahead and understand the multiple cultures. He can understand what is good in a culture, what is not good in a culture. And this gives him a better personality. This gives him a confidence rather. The confidence is boosted up of that person because he knows that he can go ahead and take on the job. Then recently, Babida had died. Recently, Lata Didi had died, and which was a great loss for us. But we are aware that Lata ji and Babida, both of them were very good singers. They have a very sound knowledge of music, and Lata ji has almost sung 50,000 songs, which is a Guinness World Record in different languages. In almost all the 22 official languages, she has sung the songs. So let us take the example. She used to sing in multiple languages, so she can go ahead and sing in any of the languages or any other lyricist who has knowledge of different languages. He can or she can go ahead and write in different languages. So the job perspective becomes very wider. What is cognitive ability? People who know more than one language have been reported to be more adept at language learning as compared to monolingual. So the people who knows or who have learned two languages, they can go ahead and easily learn the other language, the third language or the fourth language, and their brain, while we were discussing translingualism, their brain can switch from one language to another language, and this enhances the ability of the brain. And apart from that, the last but not the least, economic benefits. So bilinguals or multilinguals might have important good market. Now let us take a scenario where a student goes ahead and he very well understands Hindi and he learns Mandarin, that is Chinese. And we know that Mandarin is a very different language to learn. And let me tell you one thing. The package of the student who is well versed in Mandarin is at least 12 lakhs in a year. So at least 1 lakh rupees salary. So job perspectives are very widened for the people who are multilinguals. Better pay opportunities, job flexibilities. He can get a job in different locations. He can get job in different organizations, different positions. The person can get a better pay for this particular multilingualistic opportunity, multilingualistic approach. Now, here is why mother tongue also becomes very important. So there are n number of scenarios. First of thing, it is very easy to understand. It is best medium for acquiring knowledge. Uh, not a student or a learner cannot think much without knowing his or her mother tongue, because the brain works actively in the mother language, the basic language which he or she has learned since her childhood or his childhood. uh, and then mother tongue makes us more expressive, so it becomes very important for us. So there are n number of benefits for mother tongue. It enhances the growth of the students or the learners. They can go ahead and express. They can depend on the language. They know n number of words from that particular language. So mother tongue becomes a very crucial and important part of multilingualistic society. So the first language should be the mother language, and then the second language should be the language which is taught in the school, or the language which are being recommended by the parents or the guardians or the teachers. And what is the conclusion that we have been driving upon, that we are reaching upon over here? So the conclusion is, language is the most important medium of communication and education. So, well said. Language is the most important medium of communication and education. Its development occupies an important place in the national policy on education and program of action. So, it has a very, very important part in NEP 2020, which becomes an integral part of our education policy, our schools, our learners. The one and only one way to introduce multilingualism through a formal system of education is to make a provision for the study of several languages in the school curriculum. Okay, so it becomes very, very important to have a framework where multilinguistic approach or multilingualism should be used in the as a part of the curriculum. Then only we can make it mandatory and students can learn the multiple languages. So we know of the positive relationship between multilingualism, cognitive growth, and educational achievement. There is every need to promote multilingual education in the society, in the school. So all the slides that we have gone through, that we have tried to understand, this gives us the essence of the entire presentation or essence of the entire training, that the cognitive or overall or holistic growth of the students or the learners and educational achievement is only possible if we are going to promote multilinguistic society, multilingual understanding, multilingual education and approach in the schools. Curricular achievement is increased through such education. Very well said. Let us suppose a student is very easily able to understand science in Hindi or maths in Hindi. So his performance is going to be improved. So that the question would be the same, but the language would be different. It helps students to achieve their self-esteem. The language which they are using is the part of their medium. The language which they are using as a native or mother tongue is expression in which they are expressing themselves. So they get a type of boost, they get a type of confidence. Their own ability and potentiality and curricular success is also achieved. So if they are using more than one language, then they also achieve their own ability. They understand what potential do they have. They do not feel shy. They are very confident in expressing their ideas. Be a multilingual person has a huge scope in aspects of job, understand the history and heritage, tradition and cultures of a country. So if we go ahead and take these scenarios into consideration, a person who is multilingual have a better job aspects. He can understand the history and the heritage of his own country very well. He can understand the traditions, and he can not only understand the traditions that, but also he can go ahead and impart the knowledge of these traditions or the history or the heritage of the country to the other uh, uh, people of the different countries also, and the people can also understand the culture of the native country, that is India. And now I would like to have some conversation. I would like to have some ideas pouring in from all of you. So may I request some of the members to give their viewpoint on this particular presentation, that whether it is going to help the education system or what must be included in this particular system. Anyone?
Hello, Ravi sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, Amit sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I was just listening all your points, sir,
Yes, sir.
and I just want to give my view that learning English and multilingualism is very, very important for modern education policy.
Yes, sir.
And you have successfully and very interestingly, we have covered all the key features, key points for all this phenomenon. And thank you very much, Ravi sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Amit sir, for your valuable insight on this particular topic. So, as we have come to the conclusion, we have already gone through the conclusion. So, we are coming to the end of this particular presentation regarding multilingualism. And I believe that in the coming days, in the coming session, we are going to make it as a part, not only a part, but we are going to make it as a routine in our educational system, and we are going to impart our education in multilingualistic approach, and also we will go ahead and motivate the student to go ahead and inculcate the approach, inculcate a better approach towards multilingualistic education. Now, before we part, let us have some quotes from various people who are very learned people about language. So, language is quite literally the stuff of life. It says that without language, there is no life. The more you can speak to other people's language, the more you can be part of their lives and enrich your own. That is very well said and very true. If we can understand what somebody is trying to communicate to us in different language, in various languages, we can become an integral part of the person's life. Like, what are friends? Who are friends? Friends go ahead and understand each other. The limits of my language are the limits of my world. So this is very engrossing. The limits of my language are the limits of my world. So the more I would know about language, the more my world would expand. The more I would know about various languages, the more my world would expand. And last but not the least, learning another language is not only learning different words for the same thing, but learning another way to think about the things. Very well said. So if we know what a French person is thinking about a particular scenario, or what a Britisher is thinking about a particular scenario, what a person living in Nagaland is thinking about a particular scenario, we can only understand or empathize his or her feelings only by learning the language he knows. If we know his language, we can think like him. If we know what he is going through, we can go ahead and empathize on him. I hope Giri sir is with me today. Giri sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for such a nice session, and your presentation and willingness certainly is the matter of the pride for all of us. We have such type of the colleagues who is
Thank
always
you.
there.
Thank you very much, sir. And I would like to present my last slide, but not the least slide.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That's why I am saying that
this
once
is
again.
this is thank you. So thank you everyone for joining this session. Thank you very much for being the part of this session.
Thank
Have a nice day ahead.
you, one and all present in this meeting. Thank you
Thank you, sir.
for such nice mood. We are ready to wind up today's meeting and be ready for the next one session. Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot
Most
to all of you.
welcome. Thank you, sir.